RIP Modern Warfare 2. For the record, I've been looking forward to this video since September of 2022. Last year when I played Modern Warfare 2's beta, I said things like the weapon progression, slower clunkier movement, revamped perk system, the UI, map design, and many other things were going to lead to a disaster of a game. Safe to say, I was right. Because as each season dropped, loaded with more content, micro DLC, and reskin content you had already bought, it was clear Modern Warfare 2 was nothing more than a quick cash grab utilizing nostalgia in the name of one of the franchise's most successful and beloved games to sell copies. Not to mention the fact that the lead studio, Infinity Ward, whose questionable decision making led to them being unwilling to fix dick when feedback was given to them. Let's also not forget that this game cost a whopping $250 million to make. And all that for what? A product that's equal to the product that was being put out by the Mets? You know what that looked like?
Opening day, and here's the first pitch, and the season's over.
The campaign does offer a few hours of fun. Some may say it's great, but if you boil down the story, it's basically about how this dipshit lost nukes and attempts to cover it up. Some missions can provide you some sort of entertainment, whether that be the action of the second to last mission where everyone becomes a ghost, barf. A stealth mission featuring Troy Bolton lookalike Soap, navigating the Shadow Company filled streets and using everything at your disposal so that way you can link up with new Joke Master Ghost.
Two goldfish are in a tank.
Go on.
One turns to the other and says, "You know how to drive this thing." Little army humor.
Or maybe a mission that's basically a driving simulator, up to you. At one point I called this campaign a Marvel movie, but in the form of a Call of Duty game. Mainly because of its intro, action set pieces, weak villains, besides a couple, and characters seemingly doing risky things only for said risk to result in none of the main characters dying. Or when someone does die, you don't believe it because they're gonna need that character to profit off the player base with. But then I realized it's more like a Fast and Furious movie because of its big action set pieces, weak villains, characters doing seemingly risky things only to have said risk result in none of the main characters dying. And even when they do, regardless of it being a villain or one of our heroes, you know they're coming back because they always do. Alex, Cormac, and Graves returning in Season 5 are just the ones that pop in my head. Also, the two boss battles in the game are extremely underwhelming and actually make you feel like you wasted all of your time. Because by the end, it kind of feels like the big villain Hassan that you kind of bring up multiple times in the early part of the game. They go, "Oh yeah, he exists, we gotta go finish that." And to further drive home the whole Fast and Furious thing, you have an entire cutscene that shows everyone sitting around a bar that eventually hints at the game's next big villain. They may not say it in this story, but it's literally one word away from being a full-blown Fast and Furious ripoff. What's the word? Family. Cutscenes were great and the acting and voice acting was spectacular, but I really want to just do a little special thank you for Infinity Ward for making me fight Ray from Uncharted 4 and blow up his tank, only for him to come back in Season 5 with the explanation of, "I wasn't in that tank, assholes."
Run! Stay out of here! Come on, Larry, let's talk about it. Boom! Roasted! For authorities, don't.
I like that about
You get paid for big
assholes with that. Get this. I get this. Well, I wasn't in that tank.
The co-op campaign, or Spec Ops, you continue to do and eventually give up on. I played it twice. Once when my character glitched out and wouldn't let me turn around. The second time was to actually experience the mode, which led to the most boring 20 minutes of my life. Next to watching Transformers The Last Night, I walked out. DMZ is just Warzone with more bots and less players. I really thought we'd get some sort of crafting system based off the Alone missions gameplay in the campaign. Some people seem to enjoy it, but I think it's just a very vanilla version of what could have been. Raids I never played because I never got enough tokens to actually play it or had the friends that were willing to play Modern Warfare 2 post-launch. It always looked cool, but from the cutscenes I watched, I went, why wasn't this the campaign? The multiplayer on the surface is a typical Call of Duty multiplayer. You have a series of maps, custom classes, and a ranking system. But when you look at the multiplayer a bit deeper, you find that the maps are horribly designed and feel more like mazes with nice campy corners, a ranking system that feels unrewarding due to the lack of prestige to add challenge, and a custom class system that is an absolute disaster. The perk system I kind of understood. I feel like they just did this so that way it was more balanced for players that weren't as good, and they tried to eliminate some of those ghost ninja kind of perks that were in the tier 3 area, making for more balanced gameplay throughout the match. Not saying it's good by any means, but it's something that I kind of understood where they were coming from. They could have easily fixed it, but they never did. The new custom class system we received was a new way of unlocking weapons and attachments. Example, let's say you wanted to use the MP5, the Lockman sub, who cares? You would need to use a SIG 556 and get it to a certain rank, that way you can unlock the MP5. But let's say you wanted to use a certain red dot. So if you wanted said red dot and you wanted it for your MP5, you would potentially need to use, let's say, an M10 in order to unlock said red dot sight, which means you'd have to grind through your M10 just to unlock a red dot sight. Granted, the leveling isn't that high in comparison to other Call of Duties, but it's just the fact that you have to use a gun that you probably weren't anticipating on using. Look, I get why the system exists. You want players to use all the weapons in the game instead of not using them at all. But by doing this, you eliminate the player's choice to not use a certain set of weapons that they may not feel comfortable with, or allow them to organically jump into a certain set of weapons. Personally, as a player who's played every Call of Duty since the wheel was being invented, I've always started the game's multiplayer using weapons I feel comfortable with, like ARs, SMGs, and maybe an LMG here and there. Then I like to work at my own pace since I have an entire year to work on the snipers and shotguns, but this system seems to force me to use other weapons, and it just turns this entire progression system into more of a chore. They do this with the camo grind, but I honestly don't mind that because most of the camos are pretty decent with the AR and SMG tiers, that I don't feel like I'm getting robbed. The launch and post-launch content was underwhelming, with each season being nothing more than remasters and reskin content from previous titles that you had already bought. Which, speaking of micro DLC, the micro DLC in this game was crazy. Not only did you have micro DLC that was pay to win, but you also had micro DLC that was reskinned from content that you most likely bought and never got carried over from Modern Warfare 2019. Example, the OG Modern Warfare 2 Ghost skin. It also felt at times that selling cosmetics and bundles were more of a priority over actually improving parts of the game that desperately needed it. And as mentioned, the DLC maps were either very lackluster or mostly remasters. I'll be real, I'm very happy that this game wasn't received well post-launch. Infinity Ward, time and time again, had the opportunity to fix this game based off the feedback they were given, and chose not to do so. And I want to make something very clear. My griping and all the complaining I've done over the last year is towards the people that are calling the shots at Infinity Ward and not the employees of the company who are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into a game that's based off other people's decision making. And yes, it sold well, but it's clear that the post-launch wasn't what Activision expected, hence why we're getting a $70 DLC in Modern Warfare 3. Lastly, I'm glad this game is done. I'm glad we're all able to move on to Modern Warfare 3, regardless of it just being $70 DLC, because the entire time I played this game, which was pretty off and on and very minimal towards the end, it really felt like I was just being slapped in the face with the game's poor design choices and how loaded it was with micro DLC. And one last thing, fuck anybody that had to do with any sort of decision making with this game. It is total garbage. Except you, employee, that was just doing what you're told. We're cool. Actually, I lied. There's one more thing I want to say. It kind of felt like this game and a lot of the decisions that were being made about this game and just them ignoring the player base about pretty much everything was also that Microsoft could actually buy Activision. That way, all of a sudden, as things start to improve, not with Modern Warfare 3, they could be like, well, Microsoft was the big reason. This is why things started to change, when I think, again, they just tanked their stock, essentially. That way, Microsoft had an easier time in buying it. But that's just a theory. A game theory. But that's it. I'd like to know what you think about Modern Warfare 2. Did you enjoy the game? And if you did, let me know why. If you didn't, let me know why. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'd love to know what you guys have to say. I'm also going to score this game a 6.5 out of 10. There's a lot of stuff here, but again, it's just stuff that's there. Doesn't mean it's good. It's just available to you. Yeah, so not good. All right, bye.
You know I love that shit!